In January of 897, a guilty verdict was read aloud in Rome's Lateran Basilica, delivered to a man who had been dead for 7 months. That is the part everyone remembers. The corpse on the throne, the borrowed papal robes, the theater of putting a dead man on trial. What most retellings skip is what came after. The 4 years that followed tell you more about how power actually corrects itself than the trial ever could. Formosus had been pope from 891 to 896, a man who spent decades collecting enemies, accused of abandoning his post, accused of illegally holding 2 church offices at once, exiled, pardoned, restored. By the time he died, Rome's political factions were locked in a crisis that made the dead useful as weapons. His successor's successor, Pope Stephen VI, allied with a powerful noble family that Formosus had crossed. He decided the dead man's authority needed to be publicly erased. So he had the body dug up, dressed in full papal vestments, propped on a throne, and formally charged. A living deacon stood beside the corpse to answer on its behalf. Formosus was found guilty. His papacy declared invalid. Every decision he had made as pope, every appointment, every ordination, wiped from legitimacy in a single afternoon. Then Stephen went further. 3 fingers were severed from the corpse's right hand, the ones traditionally used for blessings, and the body was thrown into the Tiber River. It did not go the way Stephen expected. Rome turned on him almost immediately. The spectacle that was supposed to consolidate his power instead disgusted the public and alienated his own allies. Within months, Stephen was overthrown, imprisoned, and strangled to death in his cell. His successor, Pope Theodore II, moved fast. He had Formosus's body recovered from the river and reburied with full honors in St. Peter's Basilica. Then, in 898, Pope John IX convened 2 synods to deal with the mess. They annulled the Cadaver Synod's verdict, restored Formosus's papal acts as legitimate, and, this is the part that actually matters, declared that no pope would ever again be permitted to try a dead man. For a moment, it looked settled. Then, in 904, a new pope named Sergius III took power. Sergius had actually been present at the original Cadaver Synod. He did not reopen the corpse trial, but he formally reinstated the guilty verdict against Formosus, reversing the reversal 7 years later. So which was it, guilty or exonerated? Even the church's own record could not fully agree. Later chroniclers wrote conflicting accounts for centuries, but here is what never moved. Through Stephen's trial, Theodore's reburial, John's annulment, and Sergius's reinstatement, nobody ever tried to put a corpse on trial again. The verdict on one specific dead man stayed contested, but the rule against ever repeating the method itself became permanent. That is the actual lesson buried under the spectacle. An institution can argue forever about who was right in a specific case. What it rarely reverses is a rule built from sheer collective horror at how something was done. Some truths take decades to surface. Some take centuries. Black File Society exists to bring them back.